This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Russia's Rosneft is holding back on signing new crude oil deals with two Indian state refiners, three sources with knowledge of the matter said, as it has committed sales to other customers. Indian refiners have been snapping up cheap Russian oil, shunned by Western companies and countries since sanctions were imposed against Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine on February 24, which Russia calls a special military operation. A lack of new term supply deals with Rosneft may push Indian refiners to turn to the spot market for more expensive oil. It also indicates that Russia has managed to keep exporting its oil despite increasing pressure from Western sanctions to choke Moscow's revenue.
After more than a year of pressure from the United States and other top oil-consuming countries, OPEC Plus finally agreed to accelerate oil supply increases last week to tame runaway fuel prices and slow inflation. But that will leave producers with very little spare capacity, and almost no room to compensate for a major supply outage. Tight spare capacity is likely to keep oil prices volatile and sensitive to any disruptions in output, such as a big hit from a hurricane to Gulf of Mexico production during the Atlantic storm season, or a further fall in exports from sanctions hit Russia.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Europe could face energy shortages next winter after Russia's invasion of Ukraine has deepened the region's energy crisis, the head of the International Energy Agency, IEA, Fatih Birol, warned on Wednesday. "I am especially worried about the natural gas markets. If we have a harsh and long winter, we may see very difficult days ahead," said Birol at IEA's annual conference on energy efficiency in Sonderborg, Denmark. Birol said that while governments and companies were now looking to secure alternative energy supplies, it is equally important for governments to take measures to reduce demand.
U.S. commercial crude oil inventories rose unexpectedly last week, while crude in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve fell by a record amount as refiners ramped up production to pre-pandemic levels, the Energy Information Administration said on Wednesday. Crude inventories rose by 2 million barrels in the week to June 3 to 416.8 million barrels, compared with analysts' expectations in a Reuters poll for a 1.9 million barrel drop. SPR crude stocks fell by a record 7.3 million barrels to 519.3 million, their lowest since March 1987. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Demand for gold will dip this year, mainly due to weaker jewelry sales and retail investment in China due to COVID-19 lockdowns and an economic slowdown, Consultants Metals Focus said. Supply of gold, meanwhile, will rise slightly as mines expand production and recycling increases, Metals Focus said in its annual Gold Focus report. It predicted the gold price would average $1,830 an ounce in 2022, up 1.7% from $1,799 last year. On Wednesday, it was trading at around $1,850 an ounce.
Copper prices rebounded on Wednesday on hopes for a demand recovery in top metals consumer China and as the dollar erased gains. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange rose 0.4% to $9,738 a ton by 1600 GMT after dropping as low as $9,642 earlier and edging down 0.5% in the previous session. US COMEX futures added 0.3% to $4.45 a pound. "We're seeing the market trying to put in a tentative recovery on the prospect of normalization in China," said Ole Hansen, head of commodity strategy at Saxo Bank in Copenhagen.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India could produce a record 36 million tons of sugar in 2021-22, nearly 3% more than estimated, as output increased more than anticipated in the western state of Maharashtra and neighboring Karnataka, a trade association said on Wednesday. Record output in the world's biggest sugar producer could weigh on global prices, but would help the South Asian country maintain ample carry-forward stocks for domestic use, even if it exports all 10 million tons the government has allowed, which would also be a record for exports. India produced 35.24 million tons of sugar in the first 8 months of the 2021-22 marketing year, which ends on September 30, and 29 mills are still operational, the Indian Sugar Mills Association, ISMA, said in a statement. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.